Hey, unit leaders, so you have been selected to do a roundtable discussion. Many of you guys may be wondering, what is a roundtable? We kind of were able to touch on it a little bit at the last unit leader training, but I want to give you guys a little bit more information so that way you guys are prepared for the all staff training this weekend. So what a roundtable is, if you're not familiar with what it is, it's not a training session, so to speak. So when you guys are preparing for the roundtable, the best thing to do is create a list of questions that will help facilitate conversations instead of you necessarily directly training them on it. So for example, if you have camp enthusiasm, you're going to want to talk about sometimes maybe a couple leading questions and like, tell me about a time you were really enthusiastic about an activity. Tell me about as a child when there was an activity that you may have been enthusiastic about. And then you're going to take some of the responses that the staff are going to give you and that they're discussing and say, okay, how can we implement those things into our camps that will make children enthusiastic? So the point of a roundtable isn't necessarily you just giving them all the information, it's going to be you facilitating them coming up with their own ideas. So the goal of a roundtable isn't to train them necessarily, but to try and get their thought processes to think like a camp staff. So realistically, you're just guiding the discussion, you're starting the discussion. Now I am going to say that sometimes staff may not be super proactive in your conversations. So if you hit a lot of dead space in there, you should probably have about 10 minutes of actual instruction material to have in your back pocket, kind of like a training, so that way if they're not engaging in the conversations that we want to have, or they're not excited about it, that you've got about 10 minutes of actual kind of training materials. So some things you can facilitate is maybe a questionnaire at the table, or you can have your own questions, or you can put out conversation cards to help facilitate conversations at the table. Or if you're very confident that you can help lead these conversations, you may not have to do any of that. So if you're doing things, let's say, about songs, so it's going to be hard to necessarily lead a conversation about songs. You can talk about kids that were really excited about it. Did you like songs? Did you make up your own songs? But you're going to actually also want to sing some songs. So instead of you just leading all the songs, you can ask, does anybody know a camp song? And then you could facilitate those songs by actually singing them and then encouraging them that if they do make mistakes, mistakes are fine in camp. So you're going to encourage them to sing those. Once again, if you're doing songs, you maybe need to prepare some songs of your own to lead in those discussions as well. So what do I do when I don't want it is another training topic. So you may want to open it up with, let's say, a story of about a time you had to handle a child, or you can ask them about their opinions. So these are all important things to include in these kind of trainings. So what's going to happen next is with this, when you've received a link to this video, is I'm going to have a couple sample questions for each one of the trainings that was sent out to kind of get you started in the thought process. There will be a PC kind of floating around during the roundtable discussion sessions time. So if you get caught somewhere, or if you don't know what to say, or you need some assistance in your conversations, you can then call on that PC to come to your table and help you out facilitating those conversations. Now you are going to be limited to the number of people in your session. So we're roughly only asking for about 10 people in each one. How the rotations are going to work is that you're going to have to teach 4 roundtable discussions throughout the weekend. You're going to do 2 on Saturday morning, and then you're going to do 2 more on Sunday. You will be doing the same topic across all 4 of these sessions. So you're going to need to prepare one time for one of those 20-minute segments. So each roundtable is only 20 minutes. Maybe 15 minutes if we start running behind on time or anything like that. But there's going to be a facilitator to let you know when the time is going to end and those people need to rotate. Now if you get a super popular table, and we don't know which table that could end up being because most people aren't going to know you or the training subjects or things like that, we're going to ask you to say, hey, can you come to another session because songs is already full. We've got like 15 people in this session already. If you hit one of those road bumps, there will be PCs floating around to where, for example, they can remove part of that group and continue to have a discussion, especially when we get to the later times if you keep pushing the people away. And we're going to debrief on them at the end of Saturday just a little bit to ask you how they went and how you can prepare for the next day. So materials you need to bring to the roundtable discussion list of questions that you want to ask the tables. If you aren't completely sure about it, you can email me back to review your questions. Make sure that your questions are also open-ended, so no yes or no questions. Remember, the goal is to facilitate a conversation, not just get yes or no questions. And then if you want any additional training or discussion of materials, note cards, or things like that, you need to let me know by this Thursday at the latest if you're going to need anything additional for your session, so to speak, when you're training at the roundtable discussion. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me back, or you can call Chasen or any of your other PCs, and we're all familiar with how the roundtables are going to be working this year, and you can go ahead and ask them any questions. So remember, 20 minutes. If you have questions, send them to me. I'll attach some sample questions for each one of the sessions that you guys will be training to kind of get you on the thought process. Remember, this is prep time for camp, and you will get paid your regular unit leader rate for the preparation and the teaching times during these discussions, as well as you guys are going to be trainers during that time. So have any questions, feel free to give me a call or email me back. Thank you guys, and I will see you at the all-staff training.